Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Sheridan live. Status Coup. Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. Live earlier. It seems that we continue to have breaking news that merits going live a little bit earlier. I will wait for more folks to trickle in since this isn't normally when I go live. So please smash that like button. Please share this live stream. The more people that press like, the more people that will see this very live stream. Sharing is caring, as I always like to say. We are, honestly, I woke up and I thought to myself, you know, I've been following the Trump Mar-a-Lago stuff, the classified document stuff, because I think it is very important. I think it's relevant if a former president hijacked all this classified information, lied about it. I think it's relevant if that former president might have a chance to be the next president and might potentially be prosecuted. So I've been covering it extensively. But I thought to myself, you know what? I want to cover other things this morning. So I was going to record a video on something else. It was kind of like an easy layup. Like, oh man, I could have a field day this morning and just go live on Trump's total batshit interview on Fox News last night, where he declared that just by thinking about it, he could magically declassify documents. But I said to myself, I'm not going to do it. I want to cover other things. But then, as I was about to record a video on something else, President Biden and President Manchin's dirty side deal to ram through a very, very dangerous pipeline, which we will cover in the 5 o'clock Eastern live stream. Tina Desiree Berg and I will be co-hosting at 5 o'clock Eastern. So we'll be covering the Mountain Valley Pipeline and that dirty deal. Wait till you read this bill, the permitting reform bill that Manchin conjured up. It is corporate fascism like you have never seen. So anyway, I wasn't going to cover Trump, but then right before I was going to go live, breaking news as far as the classified documents scandal with Trump. So going live on that. Please smash that like button. Share this live stream. Again, more people that press like, the more people that will see this live stream. So really appreciate it. And as always, super chats, super appreciated. So before we get to the breaking news that just came out about a half hour ago, let me just give you what came out last night, which was not good for Trump. And by the way, Trump had a very bad day yesterday. As I'm sure you know, New York Attorney General Letitia James announced a major civil lawsuit against Trump for, decades of fraud, inflating his assets by billions of dollars, insurance fraud, tax fraud, just to name a few. Trump basically called Letitia James a racist, which is weird. So we covered that yesterday. So that was already bad enough. But then late last night, from the Washington Post column, headline, Appeals Court, Justice Department can use the Mar-a-Lago documents in criminal probe. Federal Appeals Panel says Judge Eileen Cannon, quote, abused her discretion in requiring outside review of seized classified documents. And Judge Eileen Cannon was the Trump-appointed judge who has no business being on a bench, very little experience, and she is on the short list to be a Supreme Court justice, who Trump appointed, by the way, at a lower judge position. An appeals court sided with the Justice Department in a legal fight over classified documents seized in a court-authorized search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, ruling Wednesday that the FBI may use the documents in its ongoing criminal investigation. The decision by a 3-judge panel of the appeals court marks a victory, at least temporarily, for the Justice Department in its legal battle with Trump over access to the evidence in a high-stakes investigation to determine if the former president or his advisors mishandled national security secrets or hid or destroyed government records. It was the second legal setback of the day, who was sued for Trump, who was sued Wednesday morning by Letitia James, which I just mentioned. In Wednesday night's ruling, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit in Atlanta found fault with Trump's rationale that the classified documents seized on August 8th might be his property, rather than the government's. The appeals court also disagreed with the rationale used by U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon in agreeing to have the classified documents reviewed by a special master to see if they should be shielded from investigators because of executive or attorney-client privilege. I mean, just reading it is laughable that we need to have a special master look at classified documents to determine if those classified documents are subject to executive or attorney-client privilege. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but there is no legal precedent for any of that. This was just a Trump lackey judge giving him what he wants. Quote, "For our part, we cannot discern why Trump would have an individual interest in or need for any of the 100 documents with classification markings," the court wrote, noting that the stay it issued is temporary and should not be considered a final decision on the merits of the case. The lower court, so they're referencing the Trump judge who appointed a special master, the lower court, quote, "abused its discretion in exercising jurisdiction as it concerns the classified documents." The panel wrote in a 29-page opinion. 2 judges on the panel were appointed by Judge. The third was appointed by President Obama. Trump's spokesperson did not respond to a request, blah, 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 blah. So essentially, Trump's whole strategy here was delay, delay, delay. So let's kind of throw mud at the wall. Let's muddy the waters here. Let's make it ambiguous and not clear. Were these documents actually classified? Were they actual personal records of Donald Trump? Were they documents that are subject to attorney-client privilege that the Department of Justice cannot use in a criminal investigation against Donald Trump? And this judge, while she asserted a special master, the Department of Justice could not have access to those 100 classified documents. So you can't, if you don't have access to the 100 classified documents that they seized at Mar-a-Lago, well, it's kind of hard to proceed with your criminal investigation against Trump if you don't have the documents. I mean, that's kind of basic common sense. So this judge had basically blocked the DOJ from doing a real investigation on Trump, citing that we need some special master to make sure these are actually classified documents. Well, after the 11th Circuit Court in Atlanta overruled this judge, Judge Eileen Cannon, issuing a partial stay. So that partial stay said the DOJ can use these 100 classified documents that the Trump judge had blocked the DOJ from using. Well, this morning, this is the breaking news, Judge Cannon, in a move that I guess is to save face and make her look like she's not a complete shill. This is from the legal document, Colin, the PDF. Judge Cannon has put forward a motion that is basically folding in response to her being overruled. Order following partial stay. This cause comes before the court following the 11th Circuit's order granting the government's motion for partial stay pending appeal. See Trump versus United States. The 11th Circuit's order stays the court's order to the extent it enjoins the government's use of the approximately 100 documents bearing classification markings and requires the government to submit those documents to the special master for review. In accordance with the 11th Circuit's order, it is hereby ordered and adjudged as follows. The term seized material in the court's order appointing special master is modified to include all material seized on August 8th, 2022, except for the approximately 100 documents bearing classification markings. Paragraph blah, blah, blah of the order appointing special master is hereby stricken. So essentially, what can she do? She was overruled. Her ruling didn't make any sense anyway, that you need a special master to go through classified documents to determine if they are actually classified or Trump's personal records. So that's Judge Cannon basically folding. I think essentially what's really going on here, and again, smash that like button. We almost have 300 people watching, but just 100 likes. So the more people that press like, the more people that will see this. I think this judge, and again, this is part of a broader picture. Trump, while he was president, Mitch McConnell rammed through, I mean, just a shit ton of conservative judge, many of whom have no qualifications to be a judge, are straight up right wing, hardcore right wing, in many cases extremists. This judge, I believe, is in her 30s, didn't have a ton of legal experience, was appointed. She is apparently, from reports, on the short list if a vacancy comes up on the Supreme Court on the conservative side for a Supreme Court appointment. So this judge essentially, basically abandoned any legal precedent and appointed a special master in a case because we need to determine if classified material is not actually classified and actually just part of Donald Trump's personal, personal records. I mean, most legal experts, other than not right-wing hacks, said this is unprecedented. This will be overruled, and here you have it overruled. So I think Judge Cannon, really, what she did here is she checked her boxes. She did Trump's dirty work. She delayed the process for a little bit, and now she could throw up her hands and say, "Hey, I was overruled, but I did my deed. I tried to help our fearless leader, but I was overruled. So now the DOJ can have the documents." So let me give you a little bit more. This is a tweet from Kyle Cheney, senior legal affairs reporter for Politico. These are the two sections of Cannon's original order that she has now stricken, meaning been removed. Colin, if we could kind of just click on the image. Number 6, this is the original order. The special master and the parties shall prioritize, as a matter of timing, the documents marked as classified, and the special master shall submit interim reports and recommendations as appropriate. Upon receipt and resolution of any interim reports and recommendations, the court will consider prompt adjustments to the court's order as necessary. So that's been taken out because the classified documents now are not subject to the special master. The other part that was taken out is make available for inspection by plaintiff's counsel with controlled access conditions, including necessary clearance requirements, and under the supervision of the special master. So Trump's people, they're not going to be able to inspect these documents because they're classified documents and they belong to the government. I want to show this tweet from Barb MacLeod because I would not at all put this past Trump. She's an attorney and legal analyst, I think, for NBC. 11th Circuit of Appeals ruling in favor of the Department of Justice means criminal investigation may resume unless Trump appeals to the Supreme Court. I know some justices have stunned us before, but I see no way they overrule the 11th Circuit on this issue. And she says, I'll be joining MSNBC. Well, there's two separate things, whether Trump would appeal to the Supreme Court and whether the Supreme Court would overrule the 11th Circuit in terms of that the DOJ should not have access to these classified documents. Number one, I think it is very possible that Trump will appeal to the Supreme Court. Again, delay. I think Trump's, for anyone that knows Donald Trump, not that I have him on speed dial, but if you know enough, I grew up in New York, so I know enough about Trump. Donald Trump, his only focus is on the short term. He has no long-term thinking. His mindset is delay any type of prosecution till after I announce I'm running for president. I think his announcement that he's going to run for president is probably now being moved up. The Republican Party, McConnell, have been begging him behind the scenes not to announce before the midterms because they know out on top of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, which has juiced up Democratic Party registration, particularly women registering to vote, which makes sense due to that awful ruling by the Supreme Court. They know Trump would be another motivator to get more Democratic voters out. So they don't want Trump involved before the midterms. Trump, of course, the only party he cares about is himself. So he's not so worried about how him announcing would affect the Republican Party. And I think Trump definitely wants to set up a situation where they're coming after him because they want to stop me from becoming president again. I think that would be the narrative Donald Trump would revel in, to be able to say, look, they're coming after me because they want to stop us from saving America, from making America great again, 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 or whatever the hell his slogan would be. I think he wants to, in his view, create a protective cloak around him, which might not protect him legally, but at least narrative-wise, gin up his base. He could move from kind of wink and a nod to political violence to being a little bit more direct in his wording that, hey, if you come after me, these people here at this rally, my people, they're not going to stand for it. Bad things are going to happen. But I think Trump I wouldn't put it past Trump at all to appeal to the Supreme Court. And to be honest with you, I'm not I don't bet. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Supreme Court would rule in favor of Trump. I mean, just look at the Supreme Court over the last 20 years. It wasn't this Supreme Court, but in 2000, for those of you that remember, they literally, in an unprecedented move, ruled in favor of George W. Bush. They blocked the votes to be continued to be counted in South Florida in Broward County. Al Gore won the election. He had more votes, but they blocked the continuation of the counting of votes. And what happened? They said, unprecedented. They said, our ruling, this Supreme Court ruling, cannot be used. This cannot be used as precedent in future cases, in future similar cases. So a conservative Supreme Court, that was 5-4, a 5-4 conservative Supreme Court. This is a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. I mean, there are no rules anymore in a politicized Supreme Court. So I think it's possible that Trump appeals to the Supreme Court. I would think if the Supreme Court wants to have any iota of credibility, it would have to be, 8-1, 9-0 ruling against Trump. Because again, it is what it is. We could have a debate on the history of classified documents because the government has been classifying documents that have no business being classified forever and ever. I mean, look at the JFK Records Act. How many documents were declassified that should have never been classified in the first place, which gave us a lot of information pertaining to the assassination of JFK that we would have never had otherwise. But I have a very, very hard time believing that the Supreme Court would rule in favor of Trump. But for the spectacle of it, the potential that it would delay matters, don't be surprised if Trump tries to appeal to the Supreme Court. I want to play a reaction to the 11th Circuit's ruling to overturn the Trump-friendly judge. This is from Andrew Weissman this morning.
I don't think I have that.
Oh, you don't have it? Hold on.
One more. I'm looking.
1 second. You should have it. It's in the doc there. Let me send it to you, though. While we get that, smash the like button, share this live stream so we can get it out to more people.
Andrew Weissman, I think I've heard you say, and most other legal analysts say, this ended up probably in the right place with a little slowdown from Judge Cannon there. What do you make of that ruling yesterday?
If you step back and think about what happened here, Donald Trump, by bringing this lawsuit, is worse off than he was before he brought this lawsuit. So two things happened. When he brought this lawsuit, it allowed the Department of Justice to lay out with the specifics of why Donald Trump was had stolen documents, why he had lied about them, why they engaged in a search warrant, because what they weren't getting the documents through a voluntary process or even a grand jury subpoena, which is not a request, it is a legal demand. So that was misstep number one. And now in one day, you have the 11th Circuit with the majority of the panel being appointed by judges, appointed by Donald Trump, ruling in every single way, as you said, a thorough opinion, and they go through chapter and verse against Judge Cannon and finding that Donald Trump, among other things, had no possessory interest in these documents. They're not his. So that is just another really bad development. It is a good development for the rule of law.
So basically, legally, there was never really a legal argument to be made that a special master should be appointed. This was just basically a Trump lackey sitting on the bench that ruled in his favor. But Trump's day yesterday, he decided, all right, Letitia James came after me. Now you have the 11th Circuit ruling against me. Then he went on Fox News for a pillow party with Sean Hannity, who lobbed softball after softball after softball against him. And in terms of Trump's just insane statements and interviews, this might have been brought to new heights. Let's go through the best of Trump's interview last night on Fox News. We'll start with, let's see. Yeah, let's start with the biggest one. Trump saying I could just kind of have thoughts, and magically, just based on thinking, documents are declassified.
So let me ask you this question, because I think this is the next logical question, because the president of the United States, you, unlike, say, Hillary Clinton in her case, right, a president has the power to declassify.
Correct.
Okay. You had said on Truth Social a number of times you did declassify. I
did declassify, yes.
Okay. Is there a process? What was your process to declassify?
There doesn't have to be a process, as I understand it. You know, there's different people say different things, but as I understand, there doesn't have to be. If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it, because you're sending it to Mar-a-Lago or to wherever you're sending it. And there doesn't have to be a process. There can be a process, but there doesn't have to be. You're the president. You make that decision. So when you send it, it's declassified. I declassified everything. Now, I declassified things, and we were having a lot of problems with NARA. You know, NARA is a radical left group of people running that thing. And when you send documents over there, I would say there's a very good chance that a lot of those documents will never be seen again. There's also a lot of speculation because of what they did, the severity of the FBI coming and raiding Mar-a-Lago. Were they looking for the Hillary Clinton emails that were deleted, but they are around someplace? Were they looking for the spying on Trump's?
You had it.
No, they may be saying, they may have thought that it was in there.
Okay.
And a lot of people said the only thing that would give the kind of severity that they showed by actually coming in and raiding with many, many people is the Hillary Clinton deal, the Russia stuff, or I mean, there are a number of things. The spying on Trump's campaign. So they spied on my campaign.
Colin, can you come on for a second? So by that thought logic, Donald Trump, kind of like Harry Potter, the land of wizards and waving a wand and all that, because I know you're a nerd. You probably liked Harry Potter's. So did I. By his logic that I could just think it into declassification, wouldn't it work the other way? Can't Biden say retroactively, well, when I became president, I thought it and I reclassified them. So you technically had
a mind battle,
classified information, because I, in my not so sharp mind anymore, I sensed that you declassified it, so I reclassified it.
Well, and that also goes to, could you be in court and have Biden and Trump in court just with their minds constantly declassifying live in court to avoid legality? Like like who would know that you thought it? Like at least you have to like verbally say something. At least you could say like, oh, I verbally declassified, but to say you thought it, we're getting into like mind battles, like you said, because then that applies to Biden and they could just mind battle it out. And if it applies to former presidents, then you could have Jimmy Carter hop in the ring, you could have Obama hop in and just do a 4-person mind battle of classification.
Right. I mean, by this logic, before you know it, Bush could come back and say, actually, I had a vision and I retroactively saw the weapons of mass destruction. So they actually did have weapons of mass destruction in Iraq because I had a dream and I saw it. So I'm not a war criminal anymore. It's just absolutely preposterous. And smash that like button. We got over 500 people. Apologies if there's any internet fuck ups. For some reason, my internet from time to time is messed up. I keep calling Xfinity to what's the problem, but that's what happens when you have monopolies. Anyway, so besides the fact that this is preposterous, besides the fact that you can't think it into existence to declassify documents, I could tell you as a journalist, I have many cases, many times where I have tried to interview someone and they said, no, I can't, I want to, but my lawyer told me I can't. I mean, this happens all the time. This happens where lawyers will 100% tell their clients not to do interviews because anything you say can or will be used against you. Obviously, Trump doesn't listen to his lawyers. But if Trump's lawyers, which I don't even know if they're dumb enough to actually make this a defense, because I do think he's going to be prosecuted at this point. If their defense was going to be he declassified it, and these were all declassified, they must be screaming watching Trump utter this stupidity. They must be screaming because literally Trump is handing the Department of Justice the case on a silver platter. You're going to argue in court in defense of Donald Trump? Yeah, you know, he was eating his cheeseburger, watching Fox News, and he just had a thought that these were declassified right before he left the White House. Can you imagine that? I mean, maybe that would pass as credible on Fox News or Newsmax or, you know, the myriad of kooky conservatives and Trump grifters on the internet, you know, Steven Crowder, Tim Pool, some leftists now that seem to be moving more towards the MAGA direction. But in a legal court, yeah, I farted it out of my mind and declassified it. Not a strong legal argument, I would say. But there was more. If you thought that was it, there was more. Let's move on to Trump again asserting that the FBI planted the documents at Mar-a-Lago.
When Hillary broke up all her phones with the hammers and they did the bleach pit, all the things that happened were incredible. Well, you could also say 33 million documents or pages with President Obama. That's very questionable. 33 million, not 33,000. Happens to be a similar number, 33 million. They're fighting over them or arguing over them. The problem that you have is they go into rooms, they won't let anybody near them. They wouldn't even let them in the same building. Did they drop anything into those piles? Or did they do it later? There's no chain of custody here with them.
Wouldn't that be on videotape potentially?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they're in a room.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
I mean, listen, to be clear, this is not like FBI, CIA happy hour here. Not a fan of either. Okay. The FBI, the CIA have done more damage around the globe, particularly the CIA around the globe. So we're not boosters for either agencies. And the FBI has planted plenty of evidence, including drugs, on black, brown, indigenous people, poor white people. So let's not get it twisted. The FBI certainly is not beyond planting things. The CIA has engineered full-scale coups to overthrow democratically elected presidents in other countries. You know what I'm talking about, in Iran. But the thought that the FBI like raided Mar-a-Lago and secretly, with the helicopters came in and planted the classified documents on Trump to stop him from running again. I mean, you got to give it to Sean Hannity. You got to give it to Sean Hannity. I mean, you must be a full-on professional hitman bullshit artist to sit there and not laugh, not giggle, and keep a straight face listening to this nonsense. It's completely batshit crazy. Let's now move on to Hannity says, hey, will you make public the security cameras?
They wouldn't allow your lawyers to go with them as they went through this entire
They wouldn't
facility,
allow. We sent
22 acre.
lawyers to the property.
So here's my question. They did ask you to turn off your security cameras.
That's right.
But you didn't do it.
That's right.
Will you release those tapes publicly?
Well, they've asked me not to do it because they feel the FBI agents might be in physical harm, in danger, because
you've been on television.
There is a fervor in this country. This country is so tired of this stuff. They're really, and so I have not done it.
You could pixel out their faces to protect their identity.
Yeah, I guess I could do that. I
look.
listened. I said, look, I don't want. I really believe that most of the people within the FBI, out of the top groups, most of the people in the FBI, they probably voted for Trump. I don't want to have anybody hurt, but they.
Honestly, that might be true, to be honest with you. It might be true that a lot of FBI people voted for Trump. But, hey, on one hand, they planted the evidence. On the other hand, we're trying to cooperate. We're trying to cooperate with the DOJ, so we're not going to release the footage, right? It kind of goes with like, oh, I've been audited for 20 years, so I can't release my taxes. Yeah, they planted evidence, but out of respect to the DOJ, we're not going to release the evidence. Very believable. Very believable. Let's move on to the clip about Hillary's deleted emails.
I would say there's a very good chance that a lot of those documents will never be seen again. There's also a lot of speculation because of what they did, the severity of the FBI coming and raiding Mar-a-Lago. Were they looking for the Hillary Clinton emails that were deleted, but they are around someplace? Were they looking for the spying on Trump's?
You're not saying you had it.
No, they may be saying, they may have thought that it was in there.
Okay.
And a lot of people said the only thing that would give the kind of severity that they showed by actually coming in and raiding with many, many people is the Hillary Clinton deal, the Russia stuff, or, I mean, there are a number of things, the spying on Trump's campaign. So they spied on my campaign. So why did they come in and do that, especially since we were having such great conversations?
Listen, people know my thoughts on Hillary Clinton. I'll tell you what, if they found me if I was a government employee with a private server, classified emails on that private server, they would lock me up and throw away the key. So I think Hillary Clinton should have been indicted. I'm not like deranged about it in terms of the full list of corruption of the Clintons. To me, the private server was very low on the list. Let's start with the Clinton Foundation, which didn't get a lot of media coverage when Clinton ran in 2016. There's plenty of corruption with the Clintons, but Trump, this was actually just secretly an effort to get Hillary's emails. So you have Hillary's emails and the FBI and the deep state are really raiding you to get Hillary's emails? Well, if you have Hillary's emails, why haven't you released them, Donald? I mean, it's entertaining. I'll give him that. This bullshit he's spewing is very entertaining. It has very little, it's not steeped much in reality, I would say, but it's certainly entertaining. Hey, Colin, let's set up a call-in, too, so we could take calls. I'd like to hear from the people. I'd like to hear from the people on this. Not just this. We could talk about other things, but we're going to set up a call-in so viewers could call in live to the show on this and anything else they want to talk about. Do you think Trump's going to be prosecuted? Do you think he's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court? Do you think, would you like to see more Republicans actually pressed on this by the corporate media? I doubt they will be, but would you like to see it? They seem to care about the sanctity of classified material when it came to Hillary Clinton. But when it comes to Donald Trump, oh, whatever. He just took a few documents. I'm sure it was just, for inspiration for his memoirs to have classified documents. So right now we're going to set up a call-in, which allows you to call in live to the YouTube show through the call-in app. So you got to download the call-in app. If you haven't, follow Status Coup on call-in, and then you could call in through call-in, and we'll take your call right here. He was President Dumbass. And by the way, to be clear, to me, why this is very important is very similar to why I continue to cover the Flint water crisis 8.5 years later. And by the way, the Flint water cover-up 8.5 years later, which I'm currently working on a book about. Why this is so important is because, like in the case of Flint with Republican Governor Rick Snyder, who literally covered up a deadly bacterial outbreak and didn't tell the public about it for 18 months. He knew about it for 18 months and allowed residents and children to be drinking that water. If you allow powerful people, particularly presidents, governors, whatever, to get away with pretty much everything, what is to disincentivize the next political hack, the next corrupt politician from doing the same exact thing if they know there's no criminal penalty? Please. Let me know when we're good to launch the call-in, Colin.
I put the link in chat here.
All right. So I'm launching the call-in. So the link is in the chat. You could click on that link and call in live to the show. We could talk about this. We could talk about other things too. I'll be live at 5 o'clock Eastern too. We're going to be talking about other things, including Democratic Biden and Manchin's dirty side deal. Here. Let me go live. We're going to be talking about President Biden and President Manchin's dirty side deal to ram through the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a major catastrophe waiting to happen in West Virginia and Virginia. This pipeline has been blocked for years. The permits have been the permits were never approved, but Manchin's bill, which was just put through or is going to be put through unless progressives block it, would basically approve all these permits that have been blocked for years. So we're going to talk about that at 5 o'clock. All right, we're on call in now. So Ray, feel free to call in and you'll be piped through. Hold on, let me unmute my mic. Feel free to call in and you'll be piped through on the YouTube channel. You could talk about the latest in this Trump case or other things as well. So hit me up on call-in. And
your audio is like double when you plugged your phone in or whatever you just did.
Hold on. My audio is double. I didn't do anything different.
Oh, wait. I think you're fine, actually.
All right. Call in on call-in right now. The link is in there. Why is Status Coup calling me? I'm not calling you, but you could call me. The best thing about Trump going broke is we might get a Trump comedy show on ONN. I don't even know if you'd be able to watch the Trump comedy show on ONN because it's been blocked by a lot of cable providers. All right. We're on call-in. Call in. And by the way, you could call in on Trump. You could call in on other things. There's plenty to discuss other than Trump. But I think this is important, not just because, I don't know, I'm old-fashioned and believe maybe powerful people should be held accountable. But I actually believe that there's a good chance Trump could become president again. I think we're headed towards a recession. I think that it's not looking good for Biden. His approval is up a little bit, but I think we're headed towards a recession. I think economic conditions are not going to be great. So we'll see what happens, but Trump could be president again. All right. Betsy, you're up.
Hey, Jordan, can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. I actually have a work meeting in like 2 minutes, but I saw the call-in thing pop up, so just wanted to say happy belated birthday. My present to you was I signed up as a member. I don't know whatever you're calling it. You need like a catch name, like for your members, different levels, but I don't know what that would be.
We have catch names.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, the $5 member is oh shit, it's escaping me.
Yeah.
Status Slayer. Status Slayer is the $5 level.
Sweet.
Coup
That's
Day,
what I am, I guess.
Coup Day Champion at $10 and Coup Day Commander at $20 a month.
Like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I grew up in New York, in the New York metro area. So, I've known since I was a child that Trump was bad news, total fraud. And I would really like to believe that, the walls are closing in and he's, going to get what's coming to him. But after seeing for decades how much he's gotten away with, it's really hard for me to believe that he'll ever be wearing an orange jumpsuit. Maybe he'll, have to pay out some money or something, but I think he's going to drag things out for so long that he'll die before he would ever wind up in prison. That's maybe the pessimistic side of me. But that being said, I'm glad that all these things, the chickens seem to be coming home to roost, and all these things are starting to, pieces are coming together. And I don't know, but I kind of worry because I think he's going to be like a caged animal, and I am worried about what could happen.
Well, I've never been one of these people that's like hyperventilating. The walls are closing in. We heard Rachel Maddow, hyperventilating for years that the walls were closing in on Donald Trump. I definitely think he's going to be prosecuted. I don't see any scenario at this point where the DOJ could publicly present all this information and then at the end be like, just kidding. This was all, just an exercise of transparency. Whether he would be convicted is a whole different thing. And to be honest with you, I have a hard time believing Donald Trump would allow himself to be taken. I think Trump would rather a quick gunshot to the head, or maybe something a little less painful before he saw a prison cell. But I do believe he will be prosecuted because at this point, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, you can't declassify things with a magic wand. And yes, there is kind of, do we want to set a precedent where presidents could be convicted of crimes? They let Nixon resign, yada, yada, yada. Maybe because of that, he would get some sweetheart deal like probation, house arrest. But I do think he's going to be prosecuted. This is the United Corporations of America, so whether he would be convicted is a different matter. But I do think he's going to at least be prosecuted because it's pretty cut and dry what he did. His lawyers who represent him lied to the Department of Justice and the FBI. And if you haven't noticed, in the case of Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, and John F. Kennedy, when you get on the bad side of the FBI and the CIA, you usually have to pay for it. Did we lose you, Betsy? All right. Maybe she had to go to her meeting. All right. Charles, you're up next.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Great. What do you think about?
You're cutting.
He'll defend.
You're cutting out a little bit.
He would defend Taiwan.
Sorry, Charles. You're kind of going in and out. Try to call back on a better connection. Jeffrey, you're up. You there, Jeffrey? Hey, Jeffrey. Going once, going twice. All right. Stutz, you're up. You got to unmute your microphone.
Thank you. You got me now? You got me now?
Yeah, I have you.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to talk to you. I talked to you at here in Cleveland at why is your name escaping me?
Jordan.
You ran for Congress.
Oh, Nita Turner's event?
Yeah. We talked at Nina's campaign headquarters. Listen, I'll throw, as a longtime student of CIA excesses, I'd like to present this to you. The CIA will always lodge themselves in banking, like banking, where they can hide money. Like BCCI, the Nugan Bank, and also this is why a reason I think Trump gets away with so much stuff is I've read that they were running a lot of their funds through his failing casinos, especially in the Taj Mahal, Resorts International. To see they can hide money in those operations that are failing. So that's why it makes me wonder why this guy is so Teflon, that he just can slide away through everything. It's just, and of course, I think the deep state also doesn't want to be in a position, or whatever you want to call it, the power elite, as the Churchill called it, the high cabal. I don't think they want a American president actually. It's not going to look good for the empire to have an American president or someone who was an American president sitting in a jail cell. So that's why I'd be shocked if there was any significant consequence that Trump had to face for any of this stuff.
Well, putting aside consequences, do you think he's actually going to be prosecuted?
That's what I'm saying. It would surprise me.
Gotcha.
And then what they also do is they do this to keep people in line. They can't, and for people who haven't studied CIA excesses, this all sounds crazy, but here's what you have to understand. If the CIA will overthrow governments in other countries, why wouldn't they do it here where it's the most important for them to do it? And the thing is, they can't blow people's brains out at noontime on a public square anymore because there's just too many people that have an awareness of this, and there's too many freaking cameras that are everywhere. But what they can do is keep people on their toes and character assassinate them to scare them into know what's coming. In the same way they kind of do with nations now, where they keep up pressures another kind of way, and then they only march in like in Iraq under the absolute very last circumstances. So this is the whole thing, like with Clinton. Clinton, if I don't know if you remember, one of the first things Clinton went looking into was a Medicare for all. Remember, he put his wife in charge of it. He put Hillary in charge of it. And that is immediately when all the white water and all that kind of stuff came up. Now, I know this might seem tenuous to a lot of people, but when you see these things happen time and time again, it's interesting. And then after that, we have presidents that actually came out of the CIA. George W. Bush, longtime CIA family. If you look into Obama, if you look into his family on the maternal side, his grandfather was actually in ONI, which is like the grandfather. Am I going too far afield for you here? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But my point is, but the point being is that they would rather keep these guys off balance than actually have to move in and create enough of a stink where there's going to be blowback, but they're going to have to drop some limited hangout and reveal some of their own functions. So that's why I'm going to be shocked if something happens with Trump, because he has. Have you read the book, The Dark Towers, about Deutsche Bank?
No.
Have you heard about it?
I've heard about it, yeah.
And this guy is scratching the surface. The Deutsche Bank, it's unbelievable. What Deutsche Bank with loans propped up through the Russians, was after Trump had defaulted on billions in loans. When the Trump Tower in Chicago, when he defaulted on that loan, do you know what he did? He sued Deutsche Bank for giving him the loan.
Right.
It's unbelievable. He sued them for giving him the loan. And then after that, you know what Deutsche Bank did? They gave him more loans.
Right.
So there's like this stuff, all this stuff. And then in the meanwhile, they talk about the Clinton deaths. In the meanwhile, there's all these, it's kind of a verb now, assassinated, these suicided, it's kind of almost, since Gary Webb, it's almost become a verb,
Right.
But anyway, my point is, I'm just going to be shocked if anything significant happens to Trump. I think they're going to be happy to keep him off base. But then again, in Trump, you're dealing with a megalomaniac of literally biblical proportions.
Right.
And so who knows what this guy's going to pull out of his ass when he's trapped, when he's trapped like some wombat in a corner, So but anyway,
let me.
I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much.
No, that's
Jordan,
okay.
I'm sorry.
There's a lot there. Number one, yes, I agree with you that for the empire, it would not look good to have a president sitting in a jail cell. However, I don't particularly think Trump is beloved by world leaders or most foreign countries. So I think this particular man and former president, if he was in a jail cell, I don't really think it would, cause any tears or anything to other countries.
It could be, yeah, I can't disagree.
Yeah. Secondly, we don't know the full extent of A, what documents he had, but B, what he was doing with them. So, I'm a journalist. I don't have any information, so there's no point in speculating. But I will say, obviously, Donald Trump is not, a profile in moral fortitude, and it is not beyond the realm of possibility that the DOJ has information or witnesses that Donald Trump was actually not just that he had the documents, but that he was using them in some way. So,
well, I agree. Trump wasn't stepping on people's toes. He was doing the tango on people's toes. So that's why this is as an objective observer of history of these things since literally the 70s when they were trying to put me in Vietnam. This guy is really going to push them to their limits as to how they have to deal with this situation, because it's going to be hard to let him slide with just like continuing investigations to make sure they keep him in line like they did with the Clintons,
Right.
So
yeah, I don't buy.
So it's going to be
I don't buy that this is all to stop him from running again. I don't think the empire cares as much, or the corporations or whatever, whether he runs or not. I mean, they made income inequality continued under Donald Trump. They made their money under Donald Trump. The military-industrial complex kept on humming under Donald Trump. So I don't, my corporate America and the political elite not want the headache of Trump as president again? Sure. But do they feel Trump is a threat to the current order of things, the status quo? Of course not. Only grifters claim.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I will say also why I think that he might actually be prosecuted. Again, no, I can't say whether he'd be convicted, but why I think he's going to be prosecuted. Remember, by all accounts, I don't have any reason not to believe this. He had documents on human sources, i.e. spies. And I'm not defending the CIA. I mean, God knows they've done. I mean, they've basically been a terrorist organization in many ways around the globe. But if there's one thing that is a sacred cow and just the sanctity, top priority is protecting, your people and your spies. And Trump had documents on spies. There is information that came out. Again, we can't connect the dots. But in October 2021, there was a report that came out that there was an increase in U.S. spies killed abroad. Obviously, he
Right.
took these documents in January 2021. Again, I don't, we can't connect the dots, but there was an increase in spies killed. Trump had these documents on human sources. God knows who's coming in and out of Mar-a-Lago all day. There have been foreign dignitaries since he's left the White House at Mar-a-Lago. So that's why, for all these reasons, he's been, and also you got to remember why he's been Teflon Don. It's not because he has some magical, mystical power. In New York, the politicians, the regulators looked the other way on his tax fraud, inflating his assets, because Trump actually brought business to New York, and Trump brought economic. He was a net
Russian gangsters,
right? He was a net positive for New York's economy. In terms of the politicians, I mean, hell, Trump could have been investigated 20 years ago, but he's been paying off Republicans and Democrats for 20, before he became president. He donated probably to more Democrats than Republicans over his time before he was president. So, I mean, look at the Koch brothers, the Waltons, et cetera. There's plenty of corporate criminals and plutocrats who commit all sorts of crimes, similar or worse than Trump, that they're never going to be prosecuted or gone after because they keep sending the checks. And half of them are funding super PACs in their entirety. So that's the reason Trump has been Teflon, not because he's some, wise man. It's because, politicians, corporate America look the other way. So
let me leave you, Jordan. Let me leave you with one more thought. I'm taking up way too much time. We have to understand, though, that the CIA, it's not a monolithic organization, and there's various factions. And when they outed Valerie Plame, that became okay because it was not it didn't skew them too far from their main goal of the invasion of Iraq. So we can have the same thing here. We can have, as we know, there were people within the depths of the government that supported that insurrection, which is why we saw we saw absolutely no help for those 200 Capitol Police or whatever the hell there was. There was people deep within the government that sided with Trump, and that's why this happened. So as I said, the CIA is not a monolith, and we have these factions that go against each other. That's how we find out a lot of these things. So anyway, what did James Jesus Angleton, the famous chief of counterespionage, say? Called it a wilderness of mirrors. Trying to study the CIA. It's a wilderness of mirrors, which is what they want. So anyway,
by the way, James,
I have so much respect and so much love for everything you do. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me blab here for far too long, and we'll be in touch soon. Okay.
All right, Cleveland rocks. Thanks.
Thank you, brother.
All right, Kelly, you're up. Did we lose Kelly? All right. Charles, hopefully your connection's better this time.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey there.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
What do you think about Biden? What do you think about Biden saying he would defend Taiwan?
I think it's another case of the military-industrial complex run amok. I don't think we should be getting involved with Taiwan and China. Same thing. We need to stop sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Jackson, Mississippi doesn't have any water right now. Flint still doesn't have any water. If you go to parts of the country, you can't even drive on the streets. But we're basically sending billions and billions of dollars to other countries. I mean, I feel obviously there's major human rights abuses that go on in those regions, but there's major human rights abuses and war crimes that go on all around the world. We can't be the world's policemen. I mean, I do believe if there's an actual genocide going on in places, that it is our role to get involved, not necessarily, boots on the ground. But no, I'm not for getting involved in Taiwan v. China.
Okay, well, that was my main question.
And I also think, by the way, the resistance is very happy with Joe Biden right now. But let's remember, Joe Biden ran on a $15 minimum wage. Joe Biden ran on a public option. Joe Biden ran on $2,000 checks. Joe Biden ran on police reform. Okay. You ever hear, do you hear anything on any of those things? No. So again, frankly, we have the money to do all of it. We have money for Medicare for all. We have money for public college. We have money to end homelessness. The government prints money for war. You think our taxes are what covered the trillions and trillions of dollars in Iraq and Afghanistan? Of course not. The federal government prints money. Modern monetary theory. Look it up. Or you have to be careful in terms of inflation, but the government has the ability to fund all of these things. I wouldn't have as big of a deal. I wouldn't have as big of a problem if we were getting involved with, giving money to other countries in a humanitarian capacity if we were addressing our own needs as priority. But we're not. And nobody is asking. These corporate media, ghouls, no, they're always asking, how are you going to pay for it? You remember they were grilling Bernie on the Democratic primary debate stage. How are you going to pay for healthcare? How are you going to pay for education? Do you hear any of them asking, how are you going to pay for this $3 billion you're sending to Ukraine this morning? Or the $20 billion over the last month? Not a peep. So
yeah, the whole deficit's fear mongering. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. And to be clear, I mean, I'm not with some of these quote unquote leftists. I feel for the people in Ukraine. We could get into the reasons, it's not, there are nuances. Russia was obviously misled, and I got a bee flying around me. So if I'm shooking and jiving, that's why. Russia, obviously, there was promises made to the Soviet Union when it fell that NATO would not expand eastward. Obviously, those promises were broken. So it's, the U.S. and NATO are certainly not innocent characters here. With that said, I'm not giving Vladimir Putin a pass for waging a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. They have, in my view, bombed many targets of innocent civilians. That also doesn't mean that, yes, there are Nazis in Ukraine, et cetera, but the people who there have been quote unquote leftists who somehow want to only focus on the U.S. role and kind of give Vladimir Putin and Russia a complete pass. I'm not one of them. So I do feel for the people of Ukraine. I'm fine with humanitarian aid, but we should not be sending money for weapons and missiles and all this stuff. That is just going to continue this war, infinity and beyond. So that's my thoughts.
Can you think of one instance where the U.S. got involved militarily, where we made things better?
No, I could only think of instances where we made it worse.
Exactly.
And by the way, when the U.S. gets involved militarily, they're not just helping Ukraine. Take a look at Lockheed Martin's stock and Boeing stocks recently, if you need a picture of why the U.S. is getting involved. It's good for business. We're a war economy, for better or worse. We've been that way pretty much since Eisenhower. So, all right, got to take the next person. Thank you. Rob. You there, Rob? You got to unmute your microphone. You there,
How's
Rob?
that, buddy?
Hey there.
Hey, Jordan. In the spirit of old school radio, refer to me as
Your connection's breaking up a little bit.
how's this?
Hey, I could hear you now.
And I love the call on that, but
Sorry, Rob. Your connection's not great. Kelly, you're up.
Hey, Jordan, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Sorry about that. I was having a bad connection issue earlier. So, yeah, it's really interesting when it comes to the whole Trump situation.
Oh, by the way,
because
hold on, Kelly, 1 second. Correction. I should have said this. Yes, the United States getting involved in World War II made things better. So I was wrong on that. There is an instance. The U.S. obviously getting involved in World War II was for the better. So I stand corrected. Go ahead.
well, yeah, but going back to the whole Trump and Mar-a-Lago raid and all that, because I come from a family background of people who work for the government. So my first thought of if the FBI were so determined to raid him to get documents back, it had to pertain to either foreign intelligence, it had to pertain to either maybe atomic secrets, maybe he had the nuclear codes. I'm kind of like 50-50 on that one, but my best guess would be he probably had something that would pertain to like something extremely embarrassing to the FBI, like CIA said that, we're gonna delay the JFK assassination file. Like he probably had something that they didn't want out there, so they figure, okay, let's raid him to get this shit back before what we don't even know what's the hell's gonna happen. But what do you think, Jordan?
I think that's very possible. But again, he's got 100 classified documents, so it might not be either or. I mean, he could have potentially classified stuff on Russiagate that doesn't make the FBI or the CIA look good, that actually kind of backs up his claims that it was all a political witch hunt. He could have, but he also could have stuff, again, on U.S. spies. The Washington Post, it seems the DOJ has just been leaking shit to them, and the New York Times. That's the only way they would know that he had documents on a nuclear another country's nuclear programs. But he also could have stuff related to, I mean, JFK, plans to initiate coups in Venezuela, which there was a failed coup under Trump to try and get rid of Maduro as president. There could be classified information on the Afghanistan war boondoggle, the 20-year boondoggle. So who knows? I mean, it would just be complete speculation on my part. But when you have 100 classified documents, it could be a buffet table of options, stuff that's embarrassing to the U.S. government, stuff that might be embarrassing to U.S. allies. Reports said there was information about French President Emmanuel Macron. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's very possible that he had stuff that could be embarrassing for the U.S. government. Also, the U.S. government, it's very possible also that they felt Trump could use this as leverage against the U.S. Now, I don't have evidence of that, but would you put it past Donald Trump? He's being investigated by 5 different agencies. We just saw Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, filed a major civil suit against him. The Manhattan District Attorney this morning, in response to the New York Attorney General's civil case, confirmed that there's an ongoing criminal investigation into Trump and his organization over the financial fraud. You have the Georgia county prosecutor is investigating him.
Who isn't investigating him at this point?
Exactly. I mean, there's 5 or 6 different investigations. The DOJ is also apparently investigating him over January 6th. Would you put it past Donald Trump to use that as leverage? Hey, if I get prosecuted, there's some things that might be embarrassing for the U.S. government here. I don't want to release them. I mean, I would not at all.
I might have some things I might say in court that you don't want out there.
Right. So, I think the last couple of years, there's been a lot of Trump derangement. I myself and Status Coup didn't really cover Trump 24/7, which honestly was not to our benefit. If I would have covered Trump more, we'd be a lot more profitable and probably have more subscribers because YouTube, recommends a lot more of that stuff. And obviously, there was interest in Trump. But in this case, I think it has to be covered because if a president can get off scot-free for this, and again, classified documents and the classification of documents has been abused for many years. I give you the JFK assassination. The JFK Records Act, the only reason we know more about the JFK assassination is because an act of Congress declassified documents that should have never been classified in the first place. So it's not to say it's not to say all classified documents are sacred and should be classified. There's a lot of them that it's just the U.S. is hiding information from the public. But if you let a president, who, by the way, egged on an attempted, in my opinion, coup of the government, get away with hijacking hundreds of classified documents, lying to the Department of Justice and FBI about it, by all accounts, hiding some of those documents because his lawyer certified that he had returned the documents. I mean, okay, let's bring us to 2025 and President DeSantis is in power. Trump hasn't been prosecuted for any of that. You think President DeSantis is going to blink twice to do things that are criminal? I don't.
Well, not only that, the craziest thing for me, and like I said, I know this because family members would tell me, like, you think that Trump having classified material was a big deal? Like, Richard Nixon straight up, like, after he resigned, he was writing all his memoirs and all of his, like, political theory books. And he had nothing but classified documents all over his West Coast White House. So it's not unprecedented to say ex-presidents have some form of classified material. The question is, what do they use it for? So it's not unreasonable to say, okay, Nixon was just writing books and getting his theory out there versus Trump. Who knows what he's using it for?
Right. Yeah, no. I mean, listen, I think Hillary Clinton should have been indicted. So I'm an equal up, I'm not picking and choosing
right
here.
There with you. You're not alone in feeling that.
I mean, I think on the list of potential crimes from the Clintons, that was pretty low. I'd start with the Clinton Foundation and corruption there. But at the end of the day, just because she got off doesn't mean, let Donald Trump get off. And I don't really understand these leftists saying, this is all a distraction and, you're feeding into the deep state and blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's just ignore the former president who might be the next president, hijacking God knows how many classified documents, lying about it. Who knows what he did with it? Yeah, that's a minor story. Let's just ignore that. I mean, I'm still covering plenty of other things. Obviously, we've been covering the Jackson water crisis. We continue to cover the union drives, the worker strikes. If there's a railroad strike, we'll be on the ground. But I don't see how you ignore this. So yeah, I'm going to continue covering it. I think Trump's in trouble. I mean, obviously, he's gotten away with all of it for decades, but I think he's really boxed himself into a corner. I think his interview, or shall I say, pillow party with Sean Hannity last night, I think his lawyers were probably screaming because if their defense was going to be he declassified all these, I mean, that interview is going to be played over and over in court that Donald Trump's declassification was he thought it into existence.
He just thought declassification into existence. It just was.
Right. I mean, essentially that is, and by the way, as Colin and I were talking about, if that is his legal argument, then why can't the DOJ's legal argument be, okay, well, by that measure, President Biden, as soon as you left, reclassified it, while he was on the shitter, just thinking about it. I mean, it's preposterous. And Donald Trump's lawyers already had a very, very difficult mountain to climb in even defending this, but he just made it a lot worse. So I think he is going to be prosecuted. It would not shock me at all if Donald Trump accelerates his announcement that he's running for president before the midterms, because again, all he cares about is short term. He doesn't think long term. And I think legally it wouldn't matter, but narrative wise, if he has the base behind him, he's going around the country at rallies, and he could push that narrative that this is all a witch hunt to stop us from taking back America, to stop our movement from making America great again, right? That narrative as a backdrop, I think he would want to push that. I don't think it would necessarily stop the DOJ, but
that, and also I do think that the whole January 6th narrative and all the imagery of January 6th, that really is going to hurt his image with the public more than any amount of him going out there saying they stole the election from us.
Right. Yeah. I think he's in I think he's in trouble. I really do. And at this point, we got to remember, it's not just a criminal investigation into him. I assume the CIA right and the FBI right now are doing, think of COVID in the early days and like contact tracing. They're going back through security footage and they're trying to figure out who was coming in and out around these documents, where these documents moved. So it's not just investigating him; it's investigating who had access to these documents. Probably, I'm sure they already fingerprinted the documents, but yeah, I think he's going to be prosecuted.
Well, we'll see what happens before the midterms, because if we get a trial and some form of prosecution before the midterms, we never know how it'll play out. But it's like you just said, if he is able to delay this long enough till after the midterms, and then he comes out and says, "Oh, I'm going to run for president," like, who knows? It's all up in the air at this point. But thanks for chatting with me real quick, Jordan. Happy belated birthday to you, and like and subscribe and donated to the Patreon. And I hope you have a fantastic day.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Kelly. Dade, you're up.
Hey, what's happening, man? How are you?
Hey.
So just a quick question. I don't intend on being on here for too long, but just wondering your take. I was listening to what you were just saying and about how you would expect him to announce to run again shortly because of this events. And, in my mind and the way I see it, it feels like this is a huge gift to him and, like, in a way, restored relevancy to him and probably has made his shots at beating DeSantis better than before, because now it's like he has to win to beat the case, so to speak. I wonder if you see it the same way or not.
Politically, yeah, absolutely. Legally, definitely not. But politically, oh yeah. I mean, listen, for anyone that not that I know Donald Trump, but I grew up in New York and I, knew enough about it. I mean, Donald Trump's number one priority has always been his oxygen, his attention, media coverage. I mean, hell, he was feeding Page 6 in New York City shit for at least 2 decades in the 1980s and 90s. That's why he was always on the cover of the New York Post with his, musings and all of the tabloid stuff that went on with his wives and all that stuff. Donald Trump, the worst thing that happened to him was when Twitter banned him. There's actually been reports that came out in recent days that actually there's like paid staff who is one of their main functions since he's been at Mar-a-Lago is to go to the golf course while he's golfing and show him positive tweets about him. So he knows that he's still kind of in the conversation. So absolutely. And I think in terms of DeSantis, by all reports, he was freaking out because there was all these media puff pieces about DeSantis, how he's a more, acceptable version of Trump and a less toxic version of Trump. And some of Trump's donors were donating to DeSantis. And then as soon as this Mar-a-Lago raid happened, the tide turned. The base rallied around Trump. And even polls showed that Trump was defeating DeSantis pretty handily. So politically, yeah, I definitely think this has helped him both become more relevant again, neutralize DeSantis, rally the base. Legally, I mean, not an expert, but it looks to me to be a pretty cut and dry case. I'd be happy to have egg on my face if he gets off. But yeah, politically, this has saved him for sure, because I do think there was a bit of a, people have short memories. And when Ron DeSantis is going in front of cameras, fighting his culture war nonstop, from the Don't Say Gay bill to banning math textbooks to going against, quote, woke corporations, he's getting all the headlines. He's getting the media coverage. And obviously his polling was improving based on him having the microphone of the governorship. So this definitely helped Trump.
Right. And are you familiar with the Pied Piper strategy from 2016?
I sure am. That's why Hillary Clinton, a big reason she lost, besides being a terrible candidate. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, basically were pushing the media to cover Trump more, thinking that if they could boost Trump and potentially help Trump win the Republican nomination, that they would then have a cakewalk for Hillary Clinton, where she would easily glide to victory against Trump. So, and that's been happening now. I mean, there's been Democratic super PACs, the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, poured money into propping up, January 6th insurrectionists who are running for Congress. They propped up Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania, who's running for governor, and he was there on January 6th. They've spent, I don't have the number, but tens of millions of dollars in supporting through ads. No, I wouldn't say supporting, but getting more media coverage and boosting extreme candidates, thinking that the Democrats would then go on to have easier opponents in the general.
Right. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is that with that in mind, it's really tough for me to see this investigation. And I know that you mentioned a minute ago that you felt that, the 2016 Clinton email fiasco, that should have also have been indicted. But I would even point to the more pressing example for me, which would be the Epstein Chronicles and everything that's played out with him and Ghislaine and the suicide in the book, etc. It's really tough for me to accept all these things and then see the investigation on Trump and not see it in the light of, well, they're trying to get him back in the news for the midterms, get him ahead of DeSantis, you see where I'm pushing at. I don't know. Just wanted to call in, kind of bring that to you, pick your mind about it a little bit. But I'm going to bow out now. But
cool. Yeah, I mean, I see that perspective. Thanks for calling. I see that perspective, but I don't really think there's much evidence that this is some political ploy to stop Trump, only because, I mean, honestly, the FBI, they kind of bent over backwards for over a year not to go to Mar-a-Lago and raid him. I mean, the National Archives was dealing with Trump for over a year to try to get back documents. Then Trump sent back 15 boxes in January. Obviously, the National Archives, when they got the boxes back, realized he had classified documents because classified documents were in the boxes. They then referred it to the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice and FBI for months tried non-aggressive measures just to get the documents back without prosecuting Trump. In June, the Department of Justice sent lawyers to Mar-a-Lago with, I think, a few FBI agents to meet with Trump's lawyers to basically, they asked if we could inspect the boxes. Trump's lawyers said no. They showed the DOJ and FBI where the boxes were. They claimed this is where everything is. That was a lie. But they wouldn't let them actually look in the boxes. That's when the subpoena happened. So to me, the timeline shows that it was not their first option to go in their commando style and raid Mar-a-Lago. That was the last option. And, I'm not one to really defend the FBI. I made my thoughts clear, but I don't really know what more they could have done. Obviously, somebody in Trump's circle tipped off the FBI and DOJ that they have not returned everything. They have a lot more here. Here is where it is. Because the DOJ is already referenced in their filings, witnesses. So yeah, I don't see this as a political thing. I think Trump really left them with no choice, because if you're the FBI and the DOJ and you have learned that they are lying to you, the lawyer certified that they had given everything back, legally certified. That's everything. Well, if they're lying about it, then you have to assume, okay, why are they lying about it? Is he doing something untoward with these documents? So I agree with you on Clinton. I certainly agree with you on Epstein. I mean, putting aside the whole suicide, which I put in air quotes, when Epstein was in jail, it was basically a bed and breakfast. He was allowed out of jail to work from his work office, where he had young girls come to give him massages in his work office while he was technically a prisoner. So that was a fucking joke. And then, the suicide, I find that highly suspicious. But to me, those things, I try to just look at this situation on its own merits. All right. I think that's every caller. Glad we got a call in. Thank you, guys. Let me read some super chats here. I'm going to end the call-in part of this. Okay. Let me read super chats we got here. Eleanor, $2. Real journalism isn't free. Thanks for the real deal. Thank you, Eleanor. Humorous, $5. Real journalism is expensive. We appreciate what you do for us, Jordan, as citizens of this country. Thank you so much for the continued support, Humorous. Really appreciate it. Double K, 1999. Another one, another Status Coup member of the community, always supporting us. Thank you, Double K. Humorist, another $5. No, I didn't forget about you, Colin. I don't believe the show would work as well as it does without your buddy. Thank you. Colin is the unsung hero of Status Coup. And by the way, Colin, not to blow up his spot, he's in the process of moving. So he's doing his normal job with Status Coup while also in the chaos and hectic nature of moving. So we appreciate everything Colin has done. With that, I'm going to bid you adieu. I will be back at 5 o'clock Eastern, I believe, with Tina Desiree Berg co-hosting. We're going to be talking about plenty of other things, totally unrelated to Donald Trump. So definitely tune back in at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Really appreciate everyone tuning in now. Obviously, we'll stay on if anything breaks as far as the Trump case, but plenty of other stuff to cover too. So we'll be back at 5 o'clock Eastern time. And remember, we do not have any funding from big banks, the fossil fuckers, big pharma, Silicon Valley, the military industrial complex. Our funding comes from you, the viewer. So if it's within your means, consider signing up at statuscoup.com/join. That's statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 a month. This is how we fund our on-the-ground reporting. There's still possibly will be a railroad strike. If there is, we're going to be on the ground wherever it is. Yesterday, we got 2 signups. So welcome Franklin and Assist. That's what it's listed as. Welcome Franklin and Assist, new members. So that's 2 new members yesterday. If you can, if you can't, we understand it's tough times for everybody. But if you can, sign up, statuscoup.com/join, become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. We are trying to expand. We have Ron Pacone and Tina Desiree Berg co-hosting a show now. Tina also has her own show. We have Kim Brown, who hosted yesterday. So we're bringing on Steve Grumbine. So we're bringing on new faces, new voices. Got to pay them. So consider signing up, statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. And I will see you at 5 o'clock Eastern. Take care.